What's up, people? Let's talk for a minute, shall we? Now, there's a video. There's a video that I saw from Wayward, which Renegades, and she asked a very important question. And you know, I think it's a very important question. And as a matter of fact, in two different videos, she asked this question. And in each video, I saw some responses that that made me want to address the question and the responses. So I'm going to do that. Okay. So the question was, where are the men? You know, and I'm assuming she's talking about black men, and I'm probably assuming right. Okay. Um. So in the video that she did a few days ago asking this question, one of the comments, was from a sister, I assume, and the sister said, hiding behind women. The video that I saw yesterday, and I think she did this video yesterday, one of the responses to her question in that video was dealing with the fact that there's a lot of abuse going on in the so-called conscious community. And I want to address those three things: the question and those comments, because the question and the comment deserves you know deserves some addressing. And I'm not talking about ridiculing nobody. All right, I'm not talking about putting nobody on blast. I'm talking about addressing the question and the comment. I want to address the question first. Okay. And I want to I tried to do this video, a few times, and you know what I'm saying. And when the first time I did the video, I viewed it, and I didn't like I didn't like, how I didn't like the video. Okay. And then the second time I did the video, you know, the device had overheated, so I'm doing all of this talking and no recording. I'm like, God damn. So, so, so this time, we're gonna try to get it right. Third time's a charm, right? Right. You know. So I'm doing a video. You know what I'm saying? I'm in the shade. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully, this video will shed some light on these on these issues, because Me, I lately I've been learning to be a lot more kind and compassionate and and understanding and approaching situations from a place of understanding, kindness, and compassion. You know, and you know, I feel like in dealing with with black women, black men, black men don't have any type of understanding and kindness and compassion. And I'm talking about most black men. I'm not talking about all black men. I'm talking about most black men. Um, Black men do not um, make any kind of attempt to approach black women and and the issues that they have with us from a place of understanding, kindness, and compassion. Now, with that being said, I really don't feel that black women, most, okay, try to approach the issues that black men have from a place of understanding, kindness, and compassion. Furthermore, I don't think most black people try to approach any kind of situation that's going on in the so called black community from a place of understanding, kindness, and compassion. However, I'm going to attempt to address this issue, from from that from that standpoint. Okay, black women. First, the first thing that I'm going to address is the question: where are the men? Where are the black men? Okay, black women. I really want you to understand, right? We, most black men, okay, we're not growing up. We're not growing up in a holistic, nurturing, supportive, functional, holistic, understanding, kind, and compassionate family and environment. We're growing up in households where the father, for the most part, is not there, is not present, and if he is, and I'm not talking about all black families, I'm talking about most black families. If the father is there, the father is abusive to the mother, the father is abusive to the child, the children, okay? When you understand that, and you understand psychology, okay, you'll understand that the environment in which that man has been raised up in most cases, will dictate what kind of adult that man will grow into. Case in point, I didn't grow up so much in a supportive and nurturing and kind, understanding, compassionate family. Okay? My mother's father abandoned her and her sisters. Okay, and her brother. Okay, she has two sisters and she has one brother. Um, my uncle, he passed away. Um, and one of my aunts just recently passed away last year, and he was not there. My grandfather was not there. I guess for the most part, for his children. Okay, her mother raised them on her own. I, I I'm assuming, okay, because I don't know the full story of what happened. All right. Now, I don't know anything about my grandmother because my grandmother passed um, before I was born. And she never really talked to me about my grandmother. So what happens is when a child grows up in a household, a woman, when a woman grows up in a household, for the most part, what happens is when she grows up in a household without a father, what happens is, for the most part, for most women, is that they'll uh, they'll seek validation in another man. It is obvious that she didn't heal from that, from her father not being in her life, because the man that she attracted also didn't have a father in his life. So what happens is you have two dysfunctional people who have not dealt with their childhood traumas, bringing a child into the world, raising him and his brother in a dysfunctional, non-nurturing, non-understanding, kind, compassionate, and holistic spiritual family. She divorces my father. Now, around the time I'm 9, 8, 9, somewhere around there, 10, she gets remarried to the son of a pastor. This man, he's fresh out of prison. All right. He gets into the church. Becomes, I think, a deacon or a minister or something like that, something to that effect. Around the age of 9, he sexually molests me. From the age of 9 all the way till I want to say 13. He sexually molested me. It's 5 years of sexual molestation. It's 5 years of childhood trauma. When a child is sexually abused, right? The child's amygdala is fucked up. Okay, the amygdala deals with decision making. If the child grows up in a dysfunctional, abusive, and traumatizing family, the child grows up traumatized, their amygdala, which is responsible for decision making, is fucked up, compromised. The child is psychologically, emotionally, spiritually fucked up. Okay? The child is going to grow up dealing with decision making issues, going to grow up with anxiety, depression, abandonment issues, neglect issues, all kind of issues. Okay? My mother, when I got older, she took me out. Okay? She took me out to a restaurant. We ate. And as we were eating, she explained to me why she did not take action, why she didn't do anything to protect me and my brother. My brother, I don't think he was molested. He told me that he wasn't. But she told me why. She told me that the reason why she didn't do it is because she was afraid of him, and that it would have destroyed the church. Prior to that, um, as I was preparing myself for marriage, a marriage that I should have never gotten into, because not only was she not the right woman for me, but because I was pushed into that situation, or I allowed myself to be pushed into that situation, because I was so naive and so codependent upon the advice of the same man who molested me. You see, even though he molested me, I still viewed him as a father figure, and I didn't really address those things. You see, I didn't really start to address those things and really start to look at those issues till I began to start having problems with my with my ex-wife. Well, no, before that. Before that, I'm sorry. Um, it was before, you know, I got married. Me and my mother approached him, you know, and him in his macho male aggression, you know, because he was much bigger than I, you know, he became rageful and he, raged at me, and was trying to tell me that this has nothing to do with my mom and you know whatever have you. What happens is I didn't I didn't deal with those things before I got married. And I ended up taking that into the relationship. Not so much, not in a, well, I can't say not in an abusive kind of way, because I was I was kind of abusive. I was more financially abusive. I was very selfish with my money. I mean, I did something to take care of the children. However, I would want to spend my money, what I'm saying, on clothes. I would want to buy clothes and what I'm saying, things of that nature. Just trying to make myself look nice or whatever have you. You know, and not only that, I started smoking weed, and cigarettes, in that relationship. And I didn't start out that way, but gradually within the relationship, I started, you know, smoking weed again and smoking cigarettes again. You um, she did not like that, you know, and you know that's understandable. Um, However, she wasn't quite the angel herself, because she came from a dysfunctional family herself. So what happens is you have two people, two dysfunctional people, bringing children to a dysfunctional relationship, you know, cycle. She ends up divorcing me after 8 years. However, during those 8 years, I endured a lot of verbal abuse, from her, a lot of shaming on behalf of my stepfather, because I was not being the man that I was supposed to be. I endured a lot of shaming, a lot of shaming from her. And when I tried to voice my feelings about her part in the relationship, you know, she would throw that back at me. You know, she divorces me after 8 years. Me and my shame in having to move back with my mother and my stepfather. Um, going through a lot of emotional turmoil. Okay, I finally, well, they finally had to, you know, kick me out of the house. And at the time, they were separate. They were separated. Um, and she was living by herself. He was living by himself. She ends up taking me to Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I ended up basically no wait, was it Grand Rapids, Michigan? Was it Grand Rapids, Michigan, or was it Holland, Michigan? It was Holland. Okay, she took me to Holland, and then from Holland, I stayed in Holland for a while. Well, no, she was staying in Holland, and I was staying in Holland with her. You know, and then she took me to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and prior to that, I met another woman. Who we both started dating and whatever. She was older than I was, and our first relationship was okay. You know, everything was all right, but she was dealing with her mother, taking care of her mother because her mother had cancer. Now, her father had died. She was very close to her father. Her mother was going through cancer, and verbally abusing her. And that became an issue, especially when I moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan, because she came from Grand Rapids, Michigan to Holland to take care of her mother. And I wanted, once her mother died, once her mother passed on, she moved back to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I moved with her. See the pattern? Get to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and things between me and her began to get worse. Just like my ex-wife, a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting. After 5 years of that, going back and forth between the streets and her, I decided to leave. I stayed by myself for about 2 more years. Worked a job, held that job down for 3 years, and you know, um, had me a room, where I was paying, room and board and whatever have you. I got tired of Michigan. Got tired of the cold weather. It wasn't so much Michigan. It wasn't so much Grand Rapids, Michigan. Because Grand Rapids, Michigan was where I began to really first. I began to really, come into contact, with people who were embracing, and people who were, into the arts, into music, into art, and that was my thing. I was into music, I was into art and things of that nature. And that's where I began to get my first taste of the music scene and art scene, and also come into contact with people who was into spirituality and things of that nature. And I started getting to that, the spiritual community. And that's when I started you know seeking counseling. That's when I began to start to seek counseling. um the mistake that I made was not going through with the counseling. And, you know, that was because, I got tired of the cold. I was tired of, I was tired of, I was tired of the cold weather. And, and I left. I had a friend who had moved down to Orlando about 3 months before I did. I was actually going to move down to Orlando before him, you know, but you know the there was a hurricane watch, and I ended up having to go back to Michigan. I got as far as Chicago, and you know, I got to Michigan and whatever have you. And so he moved down to Orlando, Florida, 3 months prior to me. I moved down around the last of May 2017, and I started working with him, with painting and everything, because he had started a painting business, before he moved down. He started in Michigan, Grand Rapids, and I was working with him a little bit there, and then I decided, well, I might as well just move down and go ahead and move down to Florida like I was planning to, and work with him. Things didn't work out with me and him. Um, you know, we ended up splitting, and going our separate ways a few times. You know what I'm saying? And you know, the last straw was when I got with this young lady here, in Orlando, Florida. I got with her, you know what I'm saying? We started dating and everything. I ended up falling in love with her. We had a lot in common. We were both into music, both into art, and she was into African spirituality. I was more, you know, free spirited, whatever have you, you know. And prior to me getting with her back in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I've had, a few sexual interactions with men, and I didn't tell her. I didn't tell her, what I'm saying, that you know, prior to moving down here, and some years before, I had sexual interactions with men. I did not tell her that. But later on in the relationship, she kind of got that vibe from me, and she started asking me questions, and you know, I told her, yeah, I've had sex with men in the past, and I do identify as bisexual. But, however, by me being bisexual, and having more of an affinity toward women, I try to assure her that, I really feel like you're the one. I'm very content with you, and I love you, and you're the one that I really feel like I want to be with. Because I feel like we have a very deep connection, and you know she she wasn't sure. She wasn't going for it. You know, and that's understandable. You know, um, I understand that she had to protect herself. You know, but that was a devastating thing for me. I ended up, I was working at the time, at a different job. I was in the process of getting me a place, because I was kind of like nomading around, and you know, in the streets, what I'm saying, whatever have you, homeless. And, she was a really big inspiration to me. You know, um, she really inspired me to want to get myself together and get off the streets and, really do something, with myself. When she broke up with me, that that devastated me, and I went back into a state of depression. I had an emotional breakdown at the job. I ended up leaving the job, quitting the job. I ended up losing my place. I became homeless again. And I ended up out in the woods, in the tent, smoking, drinking, and just being depressed. You know, and I'm still homeless and smoking and drinking and dealing with depression. You know, for some of us, men, it's not easy to get a grip on life because we're dealing with a lot of issues. Okay, I know that you're frustrated with us. You know, I know that you want us there. You want us to be the men that that we should be. Providers, protectors, and lovers, and you know things of that nature. But fortunately, for the most part, a lot of us are unavailable right now. Sad to say. Sad to say, but it's true. And I apologize. I really do. I apologize that we are not there for you like we should be. I apologize that we abuse you. I apologize that we are not honest about our intentions toward you. I apologize that we are either dealing with codependency issues or narcissistic issues. Right now, I am not available to my children, and I have not been for years. You know what that makes me? That makes me a deadbeat father. I don't feel good about that. However, given the circumstances, I cannot take all the blame for that. I can't. Because it's not all my fault. I made the decision not to be present in my children's life. Because I'm not even present in my life. And that's just the bottom line. I'm reading these books, I'm listening to these videos about how to heal the inner child. I'm reading books about psychology. I'm listening to videos, about, narcissistic personality disorder and all of these things, and I'm learning these things. And it's like, damn, I'm 42 years old, and I'm just now starting to understand my issues. And that is the case for a lot of black men. We are unavailable. That's where black men are. We're either trying to develop our manhood, we're trying to heal. And in most cases, we're doing it the wrong way. We're going about it the wrong way. And as one sister on that video puts it, we're hiding behind women, pointing case. There's a lot of coaching videos that are made by black men about how to attract women, which in my opinion is very senseless. Like the sister said, we're hiding behind women. Okay. For most of us, we have been put in situations by society and by our parents to where we are not fully developing as men. We either don't have a father, so we'll either turn to the streets, seeking out how to be a man in the streets with the gangs, get caught up, go to prison, get sexually dominated by another man, by another black man who got fucked up. So we're coming out either gay or masking. Or we're getting sexually molested by a man in our family or in some cases, a woman. Where we're dealing with narcissistic mothers who either puts us on a pedestal or ridicules everything that we do, you know. So we have mommy issues and daddy issues. Some of us have codependent issues, and we're relying on women to take care of us because that's what our mother did. And what ends up happening is the woman that's taking care of the man is verbally and sometimes physically abusing the man because she's tired of his shit, but she has issues too. We have men that are tired of dealing with women, so they turn to other men because they wasn't shown any kind of strong holistic stern but kindness, compassion, and understanding from a holistic man. So what they do is they look for that in another man. Or they go red pill, or they go MGTOW because they've had so many bad experiences with these different women that they try to you know um, get into a relationship, but because the woman is dysfunctional and the man is dysfunctional, there's so much dysfunctional in a relationship, you know what I'm saying, that you know the relationship ends up bad and fucked up, and they end up parting on bad terms with bad blood. Or like I said, you have men who are just, you know what, I need to work on myself. I need to deal with these issues so that I can become a whole man, a fully integrated, nurturing, and healing man. So that's where men are. That's where all of your black men are. Well, that's where most of your black men are. So what happens is you end up with frustrated women. They're angry. They're bitter toward black men. which is understandable. But what happens is, instead of going through the healing process themselves, they'll go to a man who's not of their race, looking for love. And then what happens is, they end up bringing that baggage into that relationship, and that relationship ends up going bad, for the most part, you know, unless, that other man, is codependent, you know what I'm saying, and too soft to really deal with, that woman's emotional baggage. And, this is not to ridicule anyone, okay? I want you to understand that. This is not to ridicule you as a black woman, because when it comes down to it, what needs to be done in the black community is we need a community that is based around healing these inner childhood wounds that we have. There's a lot of abuse going on in the so-called conscious community. A lot of men masking themselves behind African spirituality, or other forms of religious thought, whether that be Christianity or Hebrew Israelite or Islam, or whatever you want to call yourself. There's a lot of abuse going on within those religious schools of thought. No healing is taking place on the man's half or the woman's half. And even the children's half, because children are being abused in these in these religious schools of thought. What needs to be done, this is my opinion, we need to do away with these religions, and we need to do away with these gods. Because apparently, neither the religions or the gods are doing us any good. I don't do gods, and I don't do religions, because in each of these religious schools of thought, I have observed and I've come to the conclusion that there is no substantial what's the word? There's no safe place for a man or a woman or a child within these religious schools of thought for healing. Okay? There's little spurts, within the religious schools of thought, but there's not There's not a whole, you know, there's not a whole, um, you know, community. Okay, there's just little pockets. You see, what we need to do, what we need to do is establish a community that is based around understanding, kindness, compassion, nurturing, and healing. That's what is needed within the black community. And until we get that, we will not be able to have men who are able to protect and provide for the women and the children. Okay? We will not be able to have, as a sister, her name is Savvy Vision. We will not be able to have, as she says, a safe place for a woman to to access fully her divine feminine energy, so that she can access her intuition, you know, and her spiritual properties, so that she will be able to spiritually protect that man and that child and the children, you know, from outside forces. Okay? You know, we talk about economics and how important it is to establish a healthy a healthy economy for black people. We talk about spirituality, we talk about all of these things. Okay? However, not enough of us is talking about healing. There's so much abuse going on in the black community. There's a lot of child trafficking and a lot of trafficking of women in the black community. There's a lot of sacrifices of males in the black community. Men are being sacrificed. Women are being sacrificed. Children are being sacrificed within the black community. They're being psychologically sacrificed, emotionally, spiritually, physically sacrificed within the black community. Over 20,000 black women, black girls, black teenage women gone missing. Do you think that's all on the part of white people? No. There are black people in on this shit too. This is sad. black women, black men, black children being harvested for their organs, for their melanin. Because they're paying black people, black men, black women, and black teenagers to sacrifice them, to sacrifice other black men, black women, and black children and teenagers. To sacrifice their own kind. But it's understandable when you take a gander of the society in which we live in, the society in which we're subjected to. We're living in a psychotic society. The government to which we're subjected is full of psychotic motherfuckers. And I say motherfuckers literally. So, if you have a society ran by a bunch of psychotic motherfuckers, then what do you think the society is going to be like? The whole of society is going to be dealing in what is called psychotic personality disorder. And with psychotic personality disorder comes a whole lot of other different fucked up personality disorders. Codependent personality disorder, psychotic personality or narcissistic personality disorder, PTSD, post-traumatic slave disorder, cognitive dissonance, all kind of psychotic issues. And when you don't have a community that is healing based, that is based around the principles of nurturing and healing and kindness and compassion and understanding, then you're pretty much going to be bringing children into a very dysfunctional and psychotic environment. We can talk about spirituality all day. We can talk about economics all day. We can talk about Jesus and God, or Jesus and Allah, and we can talk about, the Orisha. We can talk about the Netaru. You know what I'm saying? We can talk about, the Goetia. You know what I'm saying? We can talk about the angels. We can talk about all of this shit all day. But if we do not address these psychotic disorders that we're dealing with, I'm talking about not alone, but as a community, we will forever be trapped in this cesspool, psychotic behavior, abusive behavior, and nobody will ever heal. And black women will forever be asking the question, where are the black men at? So until we what needs to happen, you see, women, if you want men, if you want men who is going to protect you, and provide for you, what you have to do is the first thing that you have to do is you have to heal yourself. Okay? You have to help these young black women, these young black ladies heal, so that you all can tap into the spiritual properties that you all have, your intuition, okay, your ability to nurture, you know, and heal, okay. Your intuition is going to help you gauge men in its full capacity, so that you can gauge if this man that you are dealing with is right for you. That way, you're not getting into dysfunctional relationships because you're dysfunctional and that man is dysfunctional. And so you're going to bring a child into a dysfunctional society and family for that child to be abused, so that they can grow up dysfunctional and abuse other children, or basically abuse other men and women and children. If you're going to have men who's going to protect you, you have to protect your sons. If you have sons and you don't have a man in the house, then I'm sorry, it's unfortunate, but you have the responsibility of protecting your sons. And I'm not just talking about physically, I'm talking about psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. Your obligation is to protect your sons so that they can grow up and access their divine masculine and feminine attributes. Pretty sure that there are upstanding and whole men out there who you can take your sons around so that they can have that masculine nurturing that they need from man, so that they can grow up in their full masculine selves and access that 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 masculine energy. Okay? If you want your sons to be masculine, and not just masculine, but the nurturing, and whole and kind and compassionate masculine energy, you know, not men who ridicule and verbally abuse and beat down, you know what I'm saying, and things of that nature. You have to take your sons around those type of men. You have to find those type of men, that are available so that they can get that. Okay? If you don't care about your son's sexual identity, or if your son feels as if he is, he's more feminine than anything, then that's something that he that's something that he has a right to, and he has to, he has a right to live that. That's okay. This is a sad situation that we're in. And I wish that we could, as a black community, as black people living here in America, I really wish that we could really stop and access understanding, kindness, and compassion so that we can nurture each other to healing. Because that's what it's going to take. This so-called tough love and ridiculing each other and going at each other's necks and just verbally abusing one another, it's not working for us. It's not working for us. We've done this for too long, and it's not working. So I hope in the near future, if not in my lifetime, I hope that we can raise children in a more nurturing, and, you know, understanding and kind, compassionate environment. And what's going to take that is accessing um, emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is going to help you understand why people, why, people operate the way that they operate. Understanding psychology is going to help one understand why people operate the way that they operate, so that we can approach each other from a place of understanding and kindness and compassion. If we can do that, then we can begin to nurture and heal each other. Until we do that, forever going to be in this loop of abuse, hurting one another, okay? Being angry and bitter, frustrated with each other. It's a loop, you know, dysfunction, abuse. So, hope this helps. And, till next time.